Lieutenant Colonel Barry Bridger, retired United States Air Force, proud citizens of Bladenboro, North Carolina, and a proud Air Force fighter pilot, mostly proud veteran.
All right, and you're here for, we have a special event today, and you're a speaker at this event, and what would you talk to us about?
The power of traditional American values. I talk a lot about values because in the prison camps of North Vietnam.
Now, for the people know, you were a prisoner of war.
For about 6.5 years. Exactly. I think our average was about 5.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I talk about values so much is in the prison camps of North Vietnam,
mm-hmm.
I was a witness to the powerful and pervasive impact that traditional American values had on my fellow POWs, not only to engage but to survive the pressure cooker environment of the Hanoi Hilton.
Mm-hmm.
If you were captured by the North Vietnamese, you were placed into a concrete box.
Mm-hmm.
You had no idea what was about to happen. You were all alone with your thoughts mm-hmm. and your values.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, you were taken to an interrogation and given 2 choices. Cooperate fully with the North Vietnamese camp authority or go to the torture chamber without any idea what their fellow POWs had done one by one. All of America's Vietnam prisoners of war exercised the values they held in common and chose the torture chamber.
And about how many prisoners were with you during that time? I mean, you were there for a while.
Total number of POWs that coming out of Hanoi was around 540, probably.
Okay.
We lost about 12 to 15 people who were tortured to death. And of course, if you were shot down and captured by the North Vietnamese with a serious injury like a broken leg or broken shoulders and stuff like that, severed limbs, you died.
Right.
They didn't try to do anything to save you.
Right. And
the opposite was true of all the people when the war ended. They came north out of South Vietnam. Everyone was on a crutch or a push cart or something because we saved them.
Right.
And we were supposed to, and we should have.
Right. And was McCain, were you there at some point when McCain was
First time I met John McCain was in '71, in the spring of 1971, in the central prison of Hoa Lo, which is located downtown Hanoi.
Okay.
Approximately 250 American prisoners of war became engaged in an unplanned religious and patriotic revolt. In open defiance of the camp authority, we began to conduct church services, share scriptures, and sing religious and patriotic songs at the top of our lungs. If you had been in Hanoi on that day, you would have heard those songs reverberating off of the buildings in the downtown part of the city.
Wow.
True to form, in the wee hours of the morning that followed, the North Vietnamese camp authority sent in their stormtroopers to crush the religious rebellion. They selected 36 of us they considered to be troublemakers and instigators. They put us in a punishment camp we called Skid Row, end of the line. The second day I was there was a knock on my door and someone taps, "Hey, this is John McCain. Who's that?" And I tapped back Bridger. He tapped back Barry.
Oh, wow.
That's where I met John.
Okay.
He made the cut on the bad guys going to the camp.
Well, they're tremendously excited that you're here, and this is a great, I think it's a great event, because I grew up where, the Vietnam veterans were treated so badly when they came back. And
I'll have something to say about that.
And I grew up watching them suffer so much, and now there's so much help for veterans. At that time, they were on their own, and so many of them could still be with us.
You would have never thought the prison camp for our veterans would be back home.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Ain't that something?
Come on through here, lady.
Excuse me. Well, thank you again, Barry, and God bless you, and thank you for your service. It's people like you that define us as a nation, and we thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right.
I welcome you all to the Vietnam Veterans Day observation and 50th anniversary Vietnam War Commemoration ceremony, sponsored by the Vietnam Veterans of America, Leo C. Chase Jr., Chapter 1084 of St. Johns County, Florida. Vietnam Veterans Day was first proclaimed by President Obama in 2012 and reinforced by President Trump in 2017. The date of the 29th of March of every year was chosen to be celebrated as because March 29th, 1973 was the day Military Assistance Command Vietnam, MACV, was deactivated. The United States of America Vietnam War Commemoration honors all United States veterans who served on active duty in the United States Armed Forces from November 1st, 1955 to May 15th, 1975, regardless of location.
Barry Bridger was commissioned as second lieutenant in the Air Force ROTC program at the University of North Carolina in June of 1962, and went on to active duty beginning in April of 1963. Captain Bridger began flying combat missions during his first regular tour of duty in Southeast Asia with the 497th Tactical Fighter Squadron out of Ubon, Royal Thai Air Force Base, Thailand, in late 1966. He was forced to eject over North Vietnam on January 23, 1967, and was taken prisoner of war. After spending 2,332 days, that's over 6 years, in captivity, he was released during Operation Homecoming on March 4, 1973, and was hospitalized to recover from his injuries at Andrews Air Force Base, Maryland. Several assignments later, he served as the executive officer at the Army Command and General Staff College at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas.
One of the most amazing aspects of the American story was the unanimity of agreement by our founders on foundational principles, in spite of coming from widely divergent backgrounds. The common denominator for this near complete agreement on the big issues was the values they held in common. Values which were forged by their life's experiences, but also by their shared passion to be well-read. That a fulfilled life is not made possible by what you acquire unto yourself, but rather what you give. And what you give will be determined by what you value about life, about living, about being. The question our veterans encounter the most often about their combat service is this: what, pray tell, would I have done under the brutal pressure of combat, the brutal pressure of serious physical or psychological injuries, or the brutal pressure of a POW camp? The answer, of course, would have been predetermined by the values you brought to the fight. You are what you value. You will take out what you took in. If you therefore enter into a period of great tribulation focused on yourself, you're very likely to come out even more self-centered. On the other hand, if you enter into a period of great travail focused on ideas that are more meaningful, more lasting, ultimately more human, then you're very likely to come out with a deeper, more profound commitment to these enduring life principles. First, in line, to fight and die to protect our country. Sadly, too often, they have died waiting in line to receive the medical care they so desperately needed and deserved. But no more. America has spoken. In Vietnam, our veterans were asked to do the near impossible: win a land war on the continent of Asia. Their reward for this Herculean and bloody endeavor was a silent and sometimes hostile homecoming, a despicable chapter in American history that will live on in the halls of infamy. That's the bad news. Here's the good news. America's Vietnam veterans were not a bunch of wimps. They came home, they held no grudge, and went back to work. They are, and you are, an American treasure, the guarantors of our liberty. And this Vietnam Veterans Day ceremony is an important way for all of us to experience the positive power of their service and sacrifice, to say thank you, and that we shall never forget. On the subject of reputation or integrity, let me share with you the wisdom of this great man. He wrote, "Integrity is one of those things too many Americans keep in the bottom drawer of their life, labeled too hard to do." He goes on, "You can't buy integrity. You can't sell it. But it gives you something to hang on to when the winds of life begin to howl and you are faced with the tough choices of right and wrong all alone. Integrity is your moral compass, and if you give it up, recovery is not possible. Forgiveness is. They are different. Integrity is therefore a preeminent moral value that should be kept at the very top of every American's conscience. Our founders were also unanimous in their belief that our land would always be a free, self-governing nation if we maintained an adequate national defense and there was sufficient wisdom and virtue in the people. They did not fear foreign aggression, for they knew the shed blood of American warriors like you had not and would not let that happen. The greatest threat would come from inadequate wisdom and virtue in the people. Folks, we are the people. Virtue is a willing sacrifice of one's private interest to serve the greater good of country, of community. You may recall the words of the late President John F. Kennedy, who said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." Our founding fathers understood that with sufficient wisdom and virtue in the people, these values would be exercised in the selection of our leaders, so that we do not have to depend upon their virtue, but upon you and me who choose them. In other words, we the people shall decide which candidates are wise and virtuous. Thomas Jefferson's writings remind us that virtue is not hereditary. It must be earned, learned, continually cultivated, and passed from one generation to the next. Our founders looked to the homes, the schools, and the churches to fuel the fires of virtue. But today, these indispensable pillars of support are in serious decay. Thankfully, one of the last great bastions of virtue resides in the hearts of the men and women who serve our country in uniform. The armed forces of these United States is one of the most prestigious institutions in America, and for good reason. The conduct of our veteran warriors on and off the field of battle is a reminder to every American that the profound ideas and principles upon which the greatest country in human history was built are still there. They work the same way every time they are tried, and they're beckoning all of us to come home and reclaim the promise of America. Ladies and gentlemen, I close my remarks by joining you in deep respect for the valor and the sacrifice of America's honored dead. Our missing in action, our veterans, and a special shout out today for America's Vietnam War veterans and your families for your faithful service to liberty. God bless you guys and gals. God bless your children. And may God bless our USA. Thank you.
We would be proud to have you participate with us in honoring the families, the members who are present to receive special recognition in accordance with the 50th commemoration of the Vietnam War. If you would join John, I will call up all the participants who are here. We ask the following participants to please come forward and join us. And our Vietnam veterans and families, we have presented the Blue Star Honors and the Silver Star Honors.